So meanwhile, I'll also take you through the essentials of the certification, because everything ends up with you clearing the Snowpro Core certification, which is the very first certification for Snowflake. And we'll quickly go through the exam topics overall and in detail, so that you have an overall idea about what's going to come up, and just see that where all you can relate with your previous experience, because it's very important that I'm assuming that I'm assuming a lot of stuff. I'm assuming that you work in SQL day in and day out, so you are aware of tables, you are aware of functions, procedures, you are aware of all these different text processing, date processing, you're aware of joins, you're aware of constraints. I understand that all these things would be something which you would know, and we will be building more Snowflake specific knowledge, and we'll be doing hands-on. So what you see is it says, okay, what's a prerequisite? The exam does not cover cloud fundamentals or basics of SQL, but some of the questions on the exam assume knowledge of these concepts. So if you have basic idea of how cloud works, that's more than sufficient. But that part anyways, I'll be covering as we take our discussions forward. SQL, right? The syntactical SQL, you're comfortable. That's a great relief. That's really, really good. So how does it start with? What is needed in terms of database basics? Again, table, data types, views, procedures, functions, selecting, manipulating data, table, data types, all these things is something which you should be knowing. And again, about cloud fundamentals, cloud computing, what is that? Why do you need it? The basic idea of storage versus compute, that is the most basic you would need. The exam is having 100 questions. The time you get is 115 minutes. The kind of question you get is multi-select, multi-choice, which means either one option will be correct, or in some type of questions, there can be more than one options, which would be correct. And your passing score is 750 plus in a scaled scoring of 1000. So which means that 75% plus, that's the cutoff criteria. And this is the distribution of the weightage. The biggest weightage is at the cloud core, Snowflake features, architecture, that section. And that's actually the very first section which we are going to start off with. Then account access and security. This is all about roles and who can access what tables. It is little administrative, but again, you will see that how Snowflake makes all this very easy and I won't say affordable, but very easy and easy to implement, as well as easy to remember. That's 20%. And then you get to performance concepts. This is all about any query which you are running. What's the performance of that query? Is the query efficient? Is the query taking a lot of time? Is the query costing you so much? Because given we are working on a cloud-only software, any cloud-only software, or what you call it as SaaS, software as a service, right? That puts up a bill, right? You get a monthly bill. So it's very important that we understand that what are the performance considerations when you're working with Snowflake, and how do you get around that? That covers 15%. A very important aspect of Snowflake would be data loading, unloading, which you load the data from the source to the destination. That's 10%. Transformations of data, again, all this joins and then the usual SQL there. So this 20% should be easy for you, which is where most of the places you're doing some things which are known already. Then 10% is taken care of. Again, it's little high level, but as you see, it just has a 10% weightage, which is data protection and data sharing, which is more about data security. And when you share your data, how do you share securely? And you ensure that only the intended people have access to it. Basically, sort of privilege management. Very quickly, a little detailed when you, this is the high level, and then each of the domain, there are subtopics mentioned. So when you talk about Snowflake Data Cloud, you talk about Elastic Storage, compute, Snowflake's 3 distinct layers, Snowflake Data Cloud, Exchange, whatever. Then the Snowflake tools. What you logged in, whatever you saw on Sun, and whatever you have logged in, that application, that portal is called as Snowsight, right? And similarly, you have Snowflake in there is Snowpark, which is the Python aspect of Snowflake. And then there are Snowflake drivers, you have SQL scripting, which you can do. Then there are Snowflake connectors, which you can use to connect to different data sources. All those things are part of it. This is more about understanding the Snowflake tools and user interfaces. Then next would be the different database objects which Snowflake has. And if you see, there are a number of these objects: database, schema, table type, view, data type, UDFs, table functions, stored procedures, streams, tasks, pipes. All these, there's a very important section which we will be, over time, we are going to learn all these. We'll be practically implementing them also. And you'll get to know that when and where one or more of these objects are required in your end-to-end data pipeline. Then again, a very important aspect of Snowflake storage. Okay, so let's move on. Then again into Snowflake storage concepts. These are the important concepts, again, important to be known, important for certification perspective also. Then domain 2, which is account access and security. This is also an important part of the Snowflake certification. A lot of questions come from this one, like role hierarchy, privileges, granting, revoking, different functions, commands. Then the overall structure in Snowflake, where you have organizations, accounts, databases, secure views, schemas, access history, etc. We get to know all that. Then when we get to performance concepts, we understand the idea of query profiling. How do you use query profiling? How can you say, look into the plans, explain plans, the idea of data spilling, the idea of how storage, how Snowflake ensures that you get the quickest access to the data, you get the cheapest access to the data. Then getting to the idea of multi-clustering, warehousing. So virtual warehouse is one important concept of which is very much unique to Snowflake, right? Then there are some tools available. There are something called resource monitoring tools available. And there are a few more visual tools available through which you can really monitor your workloads, right? And there are things like materialized views, which you can use to ensure that your query performance is improved. Then another very important section, which is domain 4, which is data loading, unloading. Very, very important. I think this is something we'll be doing in early stages, which is about file formats. Then copying. This is one of the core commands which you use to move the data from your source to destination, right? And then a bunch of other commands like create, pipe, stream, task, validate. We'll look into all this, but again an important section. Fifth one should not be that difficult. As it is not SQL. So only one important thing here would be the idea of working with semi-structured data, which requires a variant data type. We will look into that. And second important thing would be the idea of UDF versus UDTF. So user-defined functions versus user-defined table functions. And domain 6, again, it's pretty quick. It doesn't need a lot of effort into preparation. It's mostly conceptual, mostly fact and knowledge based, but it has most of the important features which makes Snowflake apart, which for which people go to Snowflake, like time travel, replication, cloning, failsafe. All these are some of the features for which people go to Snowflake, as these are important features. And again, we'll be talking about those. So this overall marks the different topics under the 6 domains which are part of the official certification.